Hey everyone, welcome to FRAX in Review, ETH Denver edition. I'm your host, DeFi Dave, here with capital K in Trader's Insight. And this week, we're going to have some fun because we're at ETH Denver. Everyone's here. Holy fuck. It's so hectic. It's funny because it's a bear market, but this is way bigger than last year. And and honestly, like, I'm quite impressed with the whole setup and organization. Like last year was like so hectic to get inside. It was such a mess. But like this year, like they have it in a new venue. It's really nice. FRAX is in full force. There's a lot more stable coins I've noticed. Sam, like, what have you taken away from ETH Denver so far?
Just the vibes are really good. Everybody's like feeling pretty good. Like you would think that with all this shit that we went through last year, like people would be not so great, but the vibes are great. People are feeling really good.
Vibes are on point.
And
you know where the vibes are really on point, Sam? Echo bubble. You know where the vibes were truly on point?
Yeah.
Yesterday, we hosted the best happy hour ever. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very proud of what we were able to do. I mean, for some background, we had the FRAX grant, and in our grant, it's our mandate to throw events. And so we threw the Something Stable Happy Hour, FRAX Flywheel, and of course our partners Reserve and Rye. And it was great. Everything from the venue to the music. I think my favorite part was how high signal the crowd was. Good vibes all around. Great way to kick off the whole ETH Denver week. And honestly, like, everybody I met Indigo, past interview from Olympus. Scoopy was there. Wow. Got to talk to Scoopy for a bit.
Wow.
Who else? Christian
Barry,
from Ottersec. Barry, Haim.
Yeah,
like Christian. It was like a Flywheel alumni party, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was great. Yeah. It was great talking to everyone, seeing everyone. Definitely gonna have more Flywheel events in the future like that. What did you take away from our event, Sam?
That the swag was really on point, and that first of all, everybody knew about FRAX, and so it was great. The vibes were really nice. Secondly, like almost everybody knew about Flywheel as well too, and they had really nice things to say about what we were doing, and everybody knew Dave. Honestly, that was not surprising.
Oh my God. Yeah, I might have known a few people.
I know. Dave put this whole thing together. It was great. The venue was amazing. The venue was awesome. And, our partners in it, Reflexer, were cool. And also Reserve. Reserve had the best merch, honestly. Sorry, I love our shirts. But I didn't bring a hat. And Reserve was giving away beanies. So, we get the win.
Yeah, no,
what's the weather like in Denver right now?
Oh, my God, Sam. What's the weather like cold in Denver? How would you... It's not that bad.
It's so cold. I'm so cold. Take me back to Miami, please.
If I've been living in Miami for 2 years too, I would say the same thing. But okay. I like Denver. Honestly, Denver is an interesting city. It's funny how this has become the city for the biggest North American Ethereum conference, or crypto, one of the biggest crypto conferences in North America, or even on this side of the hemisphere, honestly. It just happens to be in Denver, and they've just been doing it for so long, since 2017. And it just has gotten bigger and bigger, and they just have people who care, people to organize it. And I think that's why it's at this scale. And like, I just noticed like everybody's out, like, you see not just like Ethereum stuff, but like Polkadot. Near has like a giant presence, like all these different chains, all these different VMs. Like Ethereum has really become the gravity for, for computational platforms and computational blockchains and whatnot. It's really interesting to see. And
honestly, like I think it's a really high signal conference. Like I don't know about you guys, but I hate going to Bitcoin conferences. It's like it really bothers me.
I don't go
conferences now.
Yeah, because what's actually happening at a Bitcoin conference? I just think of
But these ones, ETH Denver is it's so high signal. Everybody everybody's there. Everybody's there, and they're all builders too. They're
Yeah.
all like just doing stuff. It's so great.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest thing I've noticed, because at these conferences I try to see like, okay, what's the trend now, what's bubbling up, and there's so many new stablecoins now, and that's a good thing. I'm happy about this. Like, there's different, every stablecoin's like a different flavor. Like, one's an omni-chain stablecoin focusing on Fuel VM and other like VMs that are like not, EVM like native. Like, that's like their thing. I've saw other stablecoins that are like, each one's trying to like have a different vertical, but at the end of the day, they all need liquidity. You know where they're gonna go? FRAX BP. And so I'm really happy to see like this whole, this mini crypto collateralized stablecoin renaissance take off, because everyone's trying to do like a little different of a model here and there. And of course, we have to talk about LSDs. There's all these, what did you see? What's it called? EtherFi?
Yeah, so EtherFi, yeah, they announced the other day. They look pretty cool. I mean, they say they're going to let you like keep your keys and create an LSD from it. They said I don't know how they're going to do it. It just seems really hard. But they say they understand and they know how to do it. So, yeah, they were interesting. I think who else was interesting there? There's also a bunch of like infra that was for like staking, which is going to be good for LSDs, which I thought was also interesting. But really it's just everyone. I mean, like, everyone is there that you could think of. Anybody in the ETH community comes to this thing. It's so cool.
Yeah, definitely.
You guys are making me FOMO so hard.
I'm sorry, kid. Yeah.
What other DeFi things aside from the usual suspect of LSD, stablecoin, like what else was there?
The Aave booth, the merch was really on point this year. Like,
Aave is really always on point.
I liked what
Aave has like 3 booths.
Had a really nice vibe.
Yeah,
Lynn's had a nice vibe to it. I did a Telegram poll like a while back where I listed every single decentralized social platform, and like I think like 150 people responded to it. The only one that got votes, the only one was Lens, and there was about like 10% of people were on Lens. So I'm usually pretty bearish on like desocial or whatever they're gonna call it, but like Lens seems to be like building a really nice community. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a way to bridge like your signal from Twitter onto Lens, because I think people don't want to like start over. Maybe I'm just talking for myself. I would hate to start over again. But or like something like that. I don't know. Because like Lens, I guess never mind. I don't think that can happen. If there's like a way to like get your Twitter following on Lens. But
what the best part of the conference?
What?
It was your speech, Dave.
Dave's speech.
Oh, of course.
Honestly,
I think you're right. Honestly, yeah. Thank you.
And he's humble.
I put a lot of work in that
I'm
speech.
just joking. Yeah, he did.
Oh my God. I've honestly
put in a lot of love and a lot of hours. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, some background on that speech. I applied to speak at ETH Denver after I wrote the Trust Act article for Flywheel at the end of last year. And I'm just like, oh, like, what should I talk about? And I'm just like, oh, stablecoin regulation. I have like a start there. And so it's specifically about payment stablecoins. Like, I talk about stablecoins, of course, but specifically about legislation and regulation of payment stablecoins. And I do that on purpose. FRAX isn't even mentioned once in the speech. And that's on purpose, because I'm honestly talking more towards DC people and regulators in the speech than crypto people. And I'm trying to like get them to understand the value of passing legislation and how it would be such a bipartisan victory. And one of the main points I make in the speech is like, actually, stablecoins are not cryptocurrencies. Stablecoins are not even banks. Stablecoins are its own category. It's a completely novel form of money that requires a new framework, new definitions, new distinctions from the rest of everything else. And I think, once the stablecoin community makes that line in the sand from everything else, it'll be a lot easier to create a narrative and story behind it. And I actually think as stablecoins, we should attach ourselves more to the Venmos and PayPals of the world than other cryptocurrencies, because that's a much more accurate reflection of the kind of how we work in the back end. And fun fact for everyone, Venmo, Venmo and PayPal, what they do with your money when you hold it in their account is they're the ones earning interest on it. They're the ones that owns the yield from that. And in the event of insolvency or bankruptcy, you're fucked. You're rugged. Like you're not protected in that sense. And so I'm just thinking like, damn, like Gary's going after BUSD and he's calling all stablecoin securities. Does that mean PayPal and Venmo are offering securities? It gets to a real slippery slope. And like, I'll put it this way. It's the SEC's mandate to protect investors, but it's also the SEC's mandate to protect capital markets. And if stablecoins become the dominant form of settlement in the future, which looks quite likely because it's the superior technology, and all that stablecoin development is pushed offshore and capital market formation happens offshore, then there's to be no markets to protect for the SEC. So it's just like, the way for this to be done right is if legislation gets passed through Congress. Last year, there was trilateral negotiations between, the House, the Democrats, Republicans, and Treasury Department. And they couldn't get a bill over the line. We heard rumors of like stuff like here and there. They called the bill an ugly baby, but the ugly baby was never shown. never brought out to the floor. This year, I'm a little bit more optimistic because Republicans have the House. They have McHenry as the chair. They have French Hill as the subcommittee chair of digital assets, and McHenry is the chair of financial services, of the financial committee. So I think they'll definitely get something to the floor. And then the biggest challenge would be with Senator Sherrod Brown, who's the Senate chair of the banking committee on that side of the aisle in the Senate. And he's been a noted crypto critic, but I think if you frame it in the right way, I'm hopeful because he's like, where's the utility in this? I just see speculation. And so if you like frame the argument of stablecoins that, look, it's basically Venmo, but on a public ledger. In fact, it's way easier to audit because when you're auditing, like if you audit Venmo, like you don't know like everyone's balances and this and that. With stablecoins, you do because it's all on chain. The tricky part with both, of course, is the attestations of backing for the reserves backing it. So I'm hopeful of like something to be put to the floor. I think the problem is like if you're building on chain, you don't want to go to DC because you're building on chain. And there's like it's like hard. There's no one really in between in that border area. And you have like the Blockchain Association and Coin Center, which do a great job, but stablecoins are really its own category and should really require its own lobbying efforts. Right. And right now you have Tether that's offshore, so they're not going to do anything. You have Circle, which is like really the only one. It's literally just Circle. And so, it'd be nice to see, people in the as stablecoin enthusiasts and stablecoin maximalists, like we should like come together to support like efforts and lobbying in DC. Because here's the thing with payment stablecoins, that is the line. Like payment stablecoins are the first and last line of defense for all of this blockchain industry. If payment stablecoins get called securities, then it's just like a massive negative domino effect. And I don't even want to talk about what's going to happen if like that's like the worst case scenario. But if like if there's like a framework actually created for payment stablecoins, something like the Trust Act, which I talk about in the article and which I talked about in my speech, then that's like the first step of like, oh, like you can create a framework around blockchain based assets and blockchain financial technology. And that will lead to like, okay, like, what's that? It's a positive slope, so I'm hopeful like something will like get to the floor, and like I'm hopeful that as countrymen, Americans will come together to to like do something positive. And so that was basically my speech, but parts of my speech. So I've thought a lot about this, as you can tell. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys?
Dave, let me ask you one thing. So as someone who's kind of devoid of the inner workings of DC and such, like you mentioned so many of these committees, right? Like if we were to take a bill for a stablecoin forward, like which committee do we even go to first, or do we approach one of the congressmen first?
Yeah, I'm just talking about payment stablecoins. Only Circle, only stablecoins that have their reserves as high quality liquid assets. And where to start I think you just start going to these. The best place to start is to literally find your local congressman's number, call them, and be like, "This is an issue. Like, I want discussed. I support Tommy's Trust Act." Honestly, we should like figure out some campaign, like organized campaign to do around this. Like I actually like worked in DC. I entered in DC. I was answering those phone calls. I was like emailing people back like, yes, we hear your concern. Like they actually take into account what congressmen take into account what their local population is saying, because at the end of the day, they're voting for them. like this is still a representative republic, still democracy. So it is, it is important. Honestly, we should like come out with like a stablecoin lobbying strategy. That would be pretty smart. And like at the end of the day, like it's like it's a genuine effort. And like I think like something like this would, all parties should be happy. Like look, like you have your attestations of backing. You have like the audits. Like at the end, you want to protect investors. Like this is like the best way to protect investors is to bring this stuff into the light. Because like right now, no one knows. Like it's just been gray area right now, and the executive branch and like the regulatory agencies don't have an incentive to make it clear, because it's Congress's job to make something clear, but there just hasn't been enough political will to do so. And you have to also keep in mind with these congressmen, they have so many different priorities. Like crypto's like somewhere in the middle. Sometimes if like there's a big fuss, like there was with the infrastructure bill a few years back, then they'll pay attention and understand. But like that's what I'm saying. Like if you make enough of a noise and there's an organized effort to make enough of a noise, they will listen. And there's more crypto friendly people on both sides of both parties in DC. So I think you can have a conversation and you can get something to the floor. You just have to have like talk to the right people and make the right alliances. Like hell, it's politics. So I'm hopeful. And fun fact, you know who was a co-sponsor on that Tommy bill? And I was shocked when I saw it. Elizabeth Warren. I was like, wait, what? But I was like, wait, is it like?
Oh, that's surprising.
But like, I looked at the bill. The bill is great. It like the bill says like, okay, like this is what a payment stablecoin is. It's under the jurisdiction of the OCC. It's explicitly not a security. And like there's a special payment stablecoin license that anybody like neobanks or like anybody can like apply for. So the entrenched incumbents like don't get a head start. There's privacy protections under the Bank Secrecy Act. So you don't have to report when you send P2P transactions. Like it's basically the equivalent of cash. And that's for all digital assets, not just stablecoins, all digital assets. So like this, like Senator Tomey, like real recognize real. And this was his like final action before he retired, was his bill. And he said it in his speech, I hope this lays the groundwork for Congress to get legislation passed next year, because, I recognize the innovation that this brings, and it would be like a huge fumble if we fuck this up. I'm just paraphrasing him.
Exactly. Well said, Dave.
Paraphrase. Yeah. And Tom Emmer, he's been, he recently came out with like the CBDC's Anti-Surveillance Act. And the biggest concern about the CBDC is, the central bank, they're the bank of banks. And the CBDC would make them the bank of everyone. And if they issue money straight to the people, and they're the only ones that central bank, like the most centralized thing you can do is like issue money to like the people directly. It could become like a real, intrusive surveillance tool, and it could just, stifle innovation. And the CBDC won't be the only dollar stablecoin. There's other dollar stablecoins that come from different countries. So, you just gotta, I feel like a CBDC would be fine if it's just for like banks. If like the Fed's like settlement layer becomes like a CBDC, then that's fine. Like, yeah, like that's like fine. But like if you have it like issued directly to the people, then like I don't know. I have my doubts. And so like the CBDC anti-surveillance bill was just like, they have to report on like the developments. They can't use it it basically like puts a check on the Federal Reserve, which is fine. And it's definitely like a very tense time, honestly. It looks like Operation Choke Point, Paxos getting, the informed that they were being sued by the SEC because stablecoins are securities. Like, this is super serious, guys. So yeah, I've been ranting for a bit. So yeah, what are you guys' thoughts?
I think it's well said, Dave. I mean, I think you're the most knowledgeable on the subject at the moment, and
Yeah.
if FRAX can do anything, they should. So
yeah, if they could, they
write
would.
about it.
Yeah, I will publish
I think we need to write a
my
how-to.
yeah, I will publish my speech, and then we'll like have like Operation something stable. It's in DC, like so. Yeah, but like if I was like, guys, think about this: if payment stablecoin legislation does get passed, and there are rules outlined on like how to issue a stablecoin, whether you're a depository issue or not, then that's literally hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars, just waiting on the sidelines just to come in to crypto. Literally, they're waiting. They're all going to just come out with a stablecoin, like how we saw all these different stablecoins at the conference, because it's with like different flavors of like, oh, we're like omni-chain, like, oh, we're this VM, we're focusing on Arbitrum ecosystem, blah blah, this and that. Wait till fucking JP Morgan and Bank of America like step into the ring with like their stablecoins, and that's when it gets serious, because they're huge. They're bigger than the entire crypto industry. Like, what?
Yeah.
And that's when like money really flows in, and you're going to just have a stablecoin renaissance of thousands of stablecoins come in. And with this, you're going to see crypto recognized for its utility rather than speculation, because it won't just be used in financial markets. People will use it to, salaries, trading. Stablecoins are an extremely powerful tool, especially on a public ledger. There's a reason why we see Tether with mass adoption around the world. I mean, it's kind of ironic to see, just we hear people like, oh, bank the unbanks. Oh, like we want to like reach the entire world, but in our like little circle of DeFi and degen culture, quote unquote, it's like we're like such like a unique subset that like we don't really think of. When we hear that, Tether on Tron, how widely it's used in South America and in other countries around the world, we kind of like take a step back, like, wait, what? And it's like at the end of the day, like Tether on Tron is cheap, and like Tether on Tron works. It gets the job done what people need. Like, I'm just thinking about the other day, I was like, when I wanted to like pay somebody in FRAX, and they asked like, oh, can I get it on like Avalanche or BNB chain? And I'm just like, oh, I have it on Optimism. And he's like, what's Optimism? And I was like, wait, what is it? What? I was so like, what's good? What is good of this like L2 if like no one like knows about it when they need it? I mean, if you want to be like an L2 for like, institutions, then that's fine, I guess. But like, if you want to be an L2 for, I guess like that goes to another discussion of like where are L2s going? Like maybe like one for institutions, one for this and that. I don't know. I can talk about this all day, rant all day. But that's like, I've been thinking, I'll probably write more about this because it's been on my mind. But yeah, we'll come up with the talk. The talk was filmed. I made sure to come correct with my Arizona iced tea jacket. If Arizona, if you're listening to this, please sponsor this podcast. There's nothing better to sponsor for you guys than a stablecoins podcast. I really respect the values of Arizona as a brand and how much they fought to keep the price of their tall cans at 99 cents. Like, that says a lot about you. And like, I respect the hell out of that. And we can do a lot of great work together. Like, I just already imagine the cherry blossoms on our logo, cherry blossoms on the FRAX logo. Cherry blossoms on the FRAX logo would look like a really sick design. Anyways, so that's my ETH Denver speech and then some. Yeah. Did any final thoughts on that? We're good. Okay.
Nothing on my end, but
yeah.
Since I'm not at ETH Denver, I wanted to ask you guys: were there any potential guests for the Flywheel pod that you met there?
That's a good question, Sam. I'll let you answer that.
I think we should just let it be a surprise for our viewers coming up. But we found some really nice ones. I think we have
I concur.
Nice.
You'll see in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
Nice.
probably
Nice.
like
Tease us a little, Sam. Tease us a little. Give us some teasers.
So I think that actually
something
I
stable.
can talk about one thing. Yeah, something stable. I can talk about one thing though, which I've been thinking about for a really long time. I met the Ethereum LATAM, so Ethereum Latin America Foundation, which is like all of Central and South America, and you know, one of the like talks that resonates with me even to this day is, and one of the reasons why like I feel so strong about stablecoins and Ethereum is a talk that Mariano Conti, Ethereum developer, gave, I believe it was 2 years ago at DEF CON, where he talked about the effects of, you know, high inflation in Argentina and the way that he was escaping it using Ethereum and DAI and DeFi at the time. And there wasn't much other DeFi at the moment, but you know, his whole thing was like, you know, I swap all my dollars out for Ethereum and DAI, and then, you know, I'm on chain and, you know, I'm protected and I'm in a dollar and stuff. So speaking with them, I think we're gonna put together a series about like stablecoin usage in Latin America, because I think it's the strongest like story of actual adoption of people using, you know, it doesn't really matter what stablecoin it is, but it's just they use it in their daily life, right? Like especially in Argentina, right. The cuevas are just an essential part of life. Like any like chain shop or like currency exchange place that you go into is always going to have. What happened, Dave?
It stopped. Oh wait.
You're back.
Sorry, that was weird. Oh, that was weird. It like changed. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording.
So I think like looking at that story could be something. It's a long-term story and it could be pretty powerful. So that's something.
Yeah, I was gonna say like my Flywheel journey hosting this podcast. I think the biggest theme I've had personally, I'm not sure about you guys, but one thing I've noticed is the question: where's the utility? Like, when does this stuff stop becoming like, you know, like a game of just like hot potato or you know, musical chairs? And like, it's fun to do this like financial innovation experimentation, which is necessary, and it's kind of like, you know, part of the course that some DJs just, you know, that blood gets slaughtered and whatnot. DJs get slaughtered and whatnot, because that's just how life is on chain with like certain like dApps and apps and so on. But at the end of the day, like, where's the utility? Like, when is like this, like, how are people like actually using it in the real world in their daily lives, not just to like play with different games and whatnot, but like to actually like, oh, like to hedge against inflation, or like, oh, like I'm sending remittances back, like, oh, salaries, or like I just remember our Chainlink God interview. Like, I think that was a pretty seminal interviews of ours, when like the reason why he was so into Chainlink was like how he saw them bridging the real world on chain. And so like, how can we do that and more? And like, we can, you know, have these examples of use cases in South America and the developing world, and in the Western world, it's kind of tricky because no one wants to do that on a wide scale until there's regulation in place. So it's like quite the chicken and egg problem we have here. With like a proper framework in place. Like, and I'm trying to like say like, so we'll see. And I'm hoping like something constructive and positive happens. So I don't know. I do know.
It's just
so
it's yeah. So you're right, Dave. You're right. We need better rules. We need better laws.
We need constructive rules, constructive laws. And like, I think that like DeFi and crypto has been around for enough time where we can like take what's best from them and like adapt. It doesn't make sense that we're using laws from 90 years ago, 80, 90 years ago to judge projects, because they just happen in such a more public fashion, like public discourse.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense to apply like laws about orange farms to digital assets that move at the speed of light. Like, it's crazy. But like, that's just like what's on the books now, and government in institutions, they move slow, and they move slow for a reason. But it's up to us to join the conversation to steer it in the right direction, because things are moving forward. It's gonna have there's rules, like rules are gonna be put on the books whether we like it or not. And like the title of the book speech is like, is something to be feared or welcomed? Like, if it's something like we can have a construction conversation a part of and help frame those rules and create those rules, yeah, then these regulations something to be welcomed. But if we just like don't do anything and we just like sit on our hands, and then the SEC and Federal Reserve come in and make their rules, and like then it's something to be feared. But we have agency in this. We can do something about this, and it's about all of us coming up with a strategy together as stablecoin enthusiasts to affect constructive and positive policy change in DC. So,
Well said.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's move on to the next subject. Why we're all here. FRAX. This week in FRAX. All right.
This week in FRAX.
This week in FRAX. This is FRAX in review. And so I think the biggest thing we've seen was the very long Bunny debate in the Telegram group. So Bunny is a service, you can call it that. It's actually quite simple, and I'm very familiar with it because I used to work on GUni at Gelato, and it's just little fixed range positions on top of Uniswap V3. That's it. It's just like, and what Bunny did is they have fixed range FRAX USDC. They put like a fee on it. Was it like 5%? I don't even know. I don't know. They put like 5%, and they put a token. And it's like a game. It's a game. But the thing with Bunny, it's not really a value add service. They just like built on. It's like
that's
just like a little fix.
I mean, this is the debatable part, right? So they've created a FrxETH pool or a token.
No, it's FRAX USDC.
No, but there's also the FRAX. There's also an ETH FrxETH fixed range that they have now. Yeah. So like,
okay, they have that too.
If the like, I think this was what Westwood kept saying over and over again, was like, regardless of the mechanics and how the VE system works, if Bunny is supportive in bringing in more liquidity, like what is the downside to FRAX, right? Like if we get more liquidity in an extremely super tight range with a Uni V3, just because people wouldn't have done it elsewise without the token incentives, that's good. I mean, it's a win for us ultimately. Now, like I think that it was well summarized in chat. I think the feedback that Zephram was getting was more just about how they were marketing it and how they described it. Because if they just came out and said like, hey, we have these fixed ranges and we have this like token on top that like, you can play a Ponzi game with, I think people would have been like okay with that. But they were using like specific language that made it seem as if Bunny was similar to Convex. And I think that's where C2TP took umbrage with, in just that like the main thing that Bunny doesn't have is any sort of governance rights about what happens at Uniswap, just in the story, and that's key. So like if you're fine with like VU tokenomics and you want to put Uniswap fixed liquidity in a fixed range and you're already going to do that, then sure, maybe Bunny is a good option. But I think like most of the discussion that was happening in chat was more of a semantic discussion about what Bunny was and what it wasn't, rather than like the utility of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nuance of the FRAX Telegram chat, very legendary.
Yeah. So look, Bunny is like has similar characteristics to Convex, but it's not Convex. It has no governance rights to Uniswap. And that's pretty much where it is. I mean, and so like everything else is just a discussion about how you view Bunny and what you think what you think about how Bunny describes itself. At the end of the day, like Bunny might bring in more liquidity to the Uniswap V3 pair, and that would be great. And if it does that, that's fine, and I'm happy with that. But Westwood is right. If it brings more liquidity, it's fine. you don't have to buy the timeless token, and you don't have to lock up your or you don't have to swap your Uniswap tokens into the token. You can just provide in the fixed range, and if you want to try to like pay that 5% fee and get some extra tokens, you can. So yeah, I think that's it. Like if you want the full discussion, CurveCap did a marvelous job of summarizing everything and taking screenshots. So we'll post a link to that. But other than that, I mean, it's really smashed.
Yeah, I concur. Did you guys see anything else in the FRAX this week that has caught your eye?
Yeah, I saw this one thing in the chat that Sam said. I was like, oh, that's kind of fair. You know how there's the rage quit function for the MUSD and the unstable stuff, and then somebody was complaining how the yields are basically non-existent now, and that FRAX is just kind of having this liquidity for free. And then as this guy was crying, Sam just replied and said, well, if all the users decide to kind of give back their earned FXS, because at that one point in time, the APR was high enough for that user to accept the risk, right, and to lock it up. So he said, if you could retroactively give us back all of the FXS that you earned, then maybe, right? But that's highly unlikely to be done. So I thought that was pretty funny. Like, that could be a thing in the future where someone's like just so pissed and they want to just really unlock their liquidity that they would just buy a ton of FXS and just give it back to the treasury. I thought that was kind of interesting if that were to set a precedent.
That's interesting game theory.
Yeah, like that was the one thing that caught my eye. But aside from that, I think this week was kind of quiet.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to the FRAX team a bit. We were talking to Drake and a few other people at the conference, and we got a little bit of alpha on what they're working on. And so if you've been listening for this long, we have some things to share. Some priorities on the FRAX team right now are FrxETH v2, a more decentralized version for after Shanghai it's being actually discussed and developed. In addition, more Fraxland pairs. So going to be able to borrow Frax. Yep, real exciting stuff. And I've been seeing things, multiple different projects building Fraxland optimizers. So instead of having to guess, oh, do I want to be in the CRV? Do I want to be in Geom? This, that. No, you can just put it in a vault and it'll just do the work for you. And I've heard of a few projects developing things on that. So lots of building in the shadows and in the background for Frax. You love to see it, as always. And so that's your 100%. Alpha at the end. We're gonna end on that note. Thanks for everybody watching. I mean, you guys have any?
We do. Are we gonna talk about pitch today?
Pitch. Not today.
Okay, next time. Maybe next week.
Not today.
What a tease. I love it.
We're going to end on that note. Thank you, everyone, for watching this week of FRAX in Review. And then some. If you want to keep up with everything FRAX, DeFi, all the alpha and real genuine conversations here at Flywheel DeFi, hit that bell button, subscribe, let us know what you think in the comments, smash that like button, follow us on Twitter at Flywheel DeFi, join the discussion in Telegram at Flywheel DeFi. Hey, want to keep up with us too? Go to our Substack, flywheeloutput.com, go down below. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm DeFi Dave 22.
And you can follow me at 0xcapital_K.
And we'll see you next week. Peace.